Want to plan your next fishing trip without the hassle? FishingBooker.com is the best way to find and book a fishing charter anywhere in the world. Whether you're chasing trophy fish or just looking for a family day on the water, Fishing Booker makes it simple, fast, and secure. With thousands of experienced guides, verified reviews, and 24/7 customer support, Fishing Booker takes the guesswork out of planning. Visit FishingBooker.com and book your trip today. Fishing Booker. Fishing trips made easy.
Hi, I'm Matt, founder of Afuera Coffee. Coffee for the outdoors. Afuera means outside in Spanish, and we believe your coffee should be as exceptional as your outdoor experiences. We source specialty coffee, grown sustainably, sourced with care, and roasted on demand. No hype, no gourmet or premium labels, just the best coffee you've ever had delivered to your door. We roast, bag, and ship right here in the U.S., and everything we do has Mother Nature at the forefront of our decision-making, from compostable bags to recycled mailers and labels. Plus, we donate 5% of all sales, not just profits, to charities that protect and preserve the outdoors we love. Ready to upgrade your coffee and make a difference? Check us out at afueracoffee.com. That's AFUERA coffee.com. You'll find our full lineup of roasts, stories behind the beans, and more about the causes we support. Enjoy your next outdoor adventure with purpose and an incredible coffee in hand.
All right, welcome back to the Survival and Basic Badass Podcast, Kevin and Chuck. Well, there's a lot going on, and I don't know, politics, I gotta say, more and more, I've been trying to avoid it and stay away from watching the news, but man, there's always stuff, and it just kind of keeps creeping back into my life. And, you know, I mean, obviously we all try and pay attention, but you know how things are. So first, a little, what they say, housekeeping. Make sure you guys like, subscribe, leave comments, do anything, you know, that it does to help keep things going. We really appreciate it. You know, that's the best way to support us. Just, you know, hey, but anyway, let's just jump right into it. So martial law, right? Now, I know Kevin's pretty good at definitions and martial law and helping us out with that stuff. So he's going to get us straight and correct me as I go wrong. But martial law can be pretty hardcore, right? It's like military involvement. Now, there's also a state of emergency, which is more kind of governors taking heavy hands and putting some curfews and some limits. Right. Martial law is where you get into the taking away rights, which I got to say, curfews and things to me is taking away people's rights, right? You tell me where I can and can't go in a public place. That seems like BS to me. But, you know, you usually get these things with natural disasters when it's hard to recover. You know, we not martial law, but we had the big, you know, shutdown with the Boston Marathon. That was crazy. I mean, that to me, they took the liberties of martial law without having martial law. You know, that was
nobody really objected to it because I think everybody was collectively pissed off. You know, in Boston for sure.
And yeah, absolutely. They were like, you know, let's just shut it down. And the same thing. I mean, we can get in kind of to the overreach and gun confiscation they had in Katrina. Remember, that was a big thing. And the thing is, people never got those guns back, like a lot of it. And so that was a big thing. But really, the only time I think it's going to be let me premise it with, we had this, everyone was so afraid when we had Obama that, you know, oh, he's going to come take our guns. People even kind of early on were saying that kind of thing about Reagan, which, I mean, come on, greatest president of my lifetime. I mean, I don't even understand it now, but they had it, you know, over the years, you kept hearing it. They thought that, you know, Kamala Harris would do that kind of thing. And obviously from all these no kings rallies and everything, people definitely look at Trump and have fears of that. The one thing I think Trump is very zealous and passionate in his things, in his statements and procurements. I think it definitely creates a bigger fear in my mind, definitely, of, this is a guy who's willing to take extreme measures. I am obviously very pro-gun, and, red flag laws I find very offensive. And in the previous Trump term, he was very, we should just go take away the guns from those people and then we can sort it out and get it back. Well, if you have a good understanding of government, and as I just mentioned with Katrina, they don't usually come back, and they don't come back easy, and violating people's rights isn't exactly the cool kind of thing.
Yeah. Necessarily the American way.
So I would say the things you want to look out for is somebody who sees themselves as a real authoritarian. You check off whatever boxes you see fit in your head. Okay. And I would say maybe somebody who goes after judges and tries to limit, or remove people who don't agree with them, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. People who go after the lawyers and basically punish anybody trying to go against you. You go after them and threaten their livelihood, that kind of thing. Maybe somebody who tries to go after the media, shut them down from painting the truth. These are things that should concern you if you see them. People who get detained without due process. That's kind of a big thing. So, I don't know if that checks any boxes for you, but I don't know. So when we wanted to do this episode, I started really digging into it, and I see a lot of concern of what's going on in DC. But I guess before that, do you have a more expanded version of martial law as far as like definition, or where do we get there?
Yeah. So basically martial law is the suspension of civil liberties, military control, and usually it's a temporary measure.
Okay.
And it does have constitutional, it's subject to constitutional limitations.
Okay.
Basically judicial oversight. However, you can obviously just ignore judges now, apparently, and that's fine. So maybe it's not actually part of it.
So I guess, under the Constitution, it doesn't really say what martial law is, but it says it can suspend some habeas corpus under Article 1, Section 9. It says during a rebellion or invasion for public safety. Now notice I didn't say or public safety. I said rebellion or invasion for public safety.
Right.
Now, I'm sure if you were maybe president, you could be like, well, with all these immigrants, it's like an invasion. So you could maybe
well,
get
I mean,
there.
Anyone can say anything, right?
Yeah, you could say words. But again, like Katrina, but again, no martial law was declared. Right. And you could almost make an argument with the Boston thing that they were trying to like tie it as like we're being attacked. Right. That's, same thing. 9/11, right? Obviously there was very little restrictions. They shut down cell phones. I found that to be more destructive than helpful. However, I understand it. And I think that kind of has a place. Because you're worried about communication of bad guys. And if you can disrupt it, I feel like I would have brought some kind of handheld radio thing if I was. Yeah. But to me, you've just brought more bad by shutting down everybody's communication. But,
But I mean, it also, you have to say that, hindsight is 20/20. Yeah. Nobody really knew what was going on September 11th. And even the 12th and 13th, nobody really knew what was going on.
Absolutely. So anyway, as I was starting to segue, when I looked it up, a lot of people are very worried about Trump's overreach in DC is how they felt it. And they thought a lot was going on there. And, why are they thinking that? What's going on in DC, Kevin? What have you heard?
Well, I mean, it's hard to come up with anything. Kaj Patel said that crime in DC was down. Violent crime was down. Some dude named Big Balls got beat up.
All right. Now, Big Balls, what was he doing? He just was walking down the street minding his own business?
He was, I guess he was in his car. Some people said he was soliciting a prostitute. Other people said that it was a girlfriend. It was 3 a.m. A couple of kids under 18 beat him up and took his cell phone. And it's not very clear what really happened.
Okay. All right. So that's where we're at there. Now,
how you work for the government and your name is Big Balls is a little bit, to me, that's a little bit concerning, a little weird. But
I feel like Trump's looking at applicants and he's like, this is the one.
That's the one right there.
I'm going through the names here. Like, I feel like I might even go that way. Like, I see people applying for my business and I'm like, I don't have my own business. I'm just saying hypothetically, right? And, I'd be like, Big Balls, that guy. He seems like somebody I want on my team.
But apparently
coming after you.
Apparently one person getting beat up is like enough to
send it over the edge.
Yeah. Send it over the edge, shut everything down, bring in the army, bring in the National Guard, bring in the FBI agents, walking up and down the streets looking to arrest people. Like, I don't know. Maybe there's stuff the FBI should be doing that's not like enforcing traffic laws. I don't know. I guess none of that stuff is actually happening anywhere else.
Maybe they could be trying to expose child pedophilia rings. Like they could look.
Yeah, I mean that would be. Well, I think if you try and do that, you lose your job at the FBI. Okay. I think that's not a concern anymore. You don't look into that stuff.
All right. Sorry, I got distracted. That was my mistake. All right. Way to kill the flow of the episode. It's like I can't let a missed opportunity go by. You know how sometimes you just can't. You have something and you're like, I shouldn't say it. It'll ruin everything right now, but I just have to.
Right.
Yeah, that's me. I'm that guy.
I get it. All right. I get it. I got the same issues. So there's stuff that's happening in DC and stuff that happened in Los Angeles that is not technically martial law. Whether it's legal or not is, it's not legal if it's not martial law, what they're doing. So I don't know what they're calling it, but apparently you just do whatever the fuck you want because this is America where the laws don't mean anything.
Right. Exactly. Now, so like that's the thing, like back to it, that Posse Comitatus Act of 1878 limits military involvement in domestic law enforcement unless authorized by Congress, or the president. So
Congress or the president.
Yeah. And it says, however, it says that the military can't just waltz in to domestic law enforcement without approval. Yeah. No, that's pretty much it. I mean, they're kind of good. Now, martial law during Katrina in 2005, like I said, that was not martial law, but yet they came in and took everybody's rights, and they also used kind of the National Guard to do it. It just is a mess. Now, that's the thing in DC, right, is one of the big concerns is they brought in the National Guard to kind of help with policing. And you had mentioned to me earlier that they brought in the FBI to help with policing. Right. And these are outside their norms. So,
right. That wouldn't be typically the job of the FBI to,
Now, why would we be concerned about somebody bringing in the National Guard to do policing? Like that just sounds better. More guns in the hands of good people, Kevin.
Right.
I've been known to say that.
Yeah, I know that. You were in the military. I was in the military. We weren't necessarily infantry or combat troops. We were in the Navy, which is not necessarily interacting directly with bad guys' job. But the police have specific training as far as de-escalation, procedures for arrest. The military has specific training on killing enemy combatants. right? So if you have one group that's trained for placing people under arrest and another group that's trained for killing people, maybe the ones that you want to be interacting with the U.S. civilians is not the ones that are trained to kill people.
I think that's a reasonable assessment. I don't think you could really, argue otherwise, to be honest. It really does come down to training. And I got to say, things get heated and escalated, and it just ends badly when you have the wrong people in charge. But that's with anything. I mean, we see that in government, right? You don't want somebody who's very, who's not trained to de-escalate. I do have concerns that police are less focused on de-escalation. I think that that's the case in some places. I mean, obviously there's good situations and bad. And even if 1 out of 10 is bad, it just takes one hothead to kind of ruin everything,
Right. There have been a lot of people that got shot because they're holding a cell phone that looked like a gun, And
that's the thing. Law enforcement, they can get so scared and paranoid of, I'm dealing with bad over and over again, I remember I had a cop buddy in New York, and he was retiring, and he told me, he's like, man, he goes, when I did this, he was a big guy, right? He's like 6'5" and, reasonably built. No, mind you, he's getting older. He was like 50. So, older, but not past his prime, or that's what I tell myself. Like 50 isn't the end, but 50 isn't the end. But
I think probably 25 is past your prime, but I mean, whatever.
Right. We don't have to get into the nitty gritty of it, but he was talking about, when he started doing it 20, 30 years ago, he said, he'd go up to a 16-year-old and be like, hey, you need to do this, stop, what you're doing or whatever. And they would totally back down and, oh, it's a policeman. Oh, I need to behave. And you could kind of talk them into shaping up. Right. Whereas now he's like, they'll come up and kick me and spit on me. And, he's like, it's a totally different world. He's like, there used to be reasoning and negotiating, and now it's just kind of like hostility. And now that culture has been created and whatever and happened over time, but it's not a good thing.
Yeah. Well, I think in general, there's a lot less respect for law enforcement officers, whether justified or unjustified, right. Right now, I know the term ACAB is not like it's not an old term. That's kind of new, all cops are bastards is what ACAB is.
Is that what that is? Because I haven't. I don't.
It's a phrase that people use now. It's not, it's not something that's been around for 50 years.
Yeah, but I do remember Public Enemy. They had something a long time ago. So
yeah, Public Enemy.
I don't remember what that was, but
NWA had one of them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ice Cube. Was that Ice-T?
I think you're right.
That was Cop Killer.
One of those. Okay. Oh, yeah. Ice-T. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's some bad things out there. All right. Anyway, Kevin, that's horrible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Moving right along, keeping flow. That's what I do here. Now there's been other things, right? So like some examples. Let's talk about some examples of actual martial law. Now, right. Andrew Jackson had martial law in
I think that was the first time martial law was declared anywhere in the United States, and that was for the city of New Orleans.
Yes, for New Orleans, and they basically turned it into a police state with curfews, arrest anyone who questioned them. Even they said a federal judge. Remember, I had mentioned that going after judges might be a sign.
Right.
They censored newspapers. Remember, I mentioned that might be a sign to look for. It was protecting the city from the British,
until the end of the war, which, there was a battle, right? The Battle of New Orleans. Yep. Andrew Jackson was there with his soldiers. They defended the city. The British had to leave because they lost. But then that was it. Like the British were gone, but he was still staying there for,
And they were down for squashing freedom. They were like,
right. So the senator spoke up about it and was like, you can't do this. We're going back to normal. So he put him in jail.
And they were like, quick, arrest that guy.
Right to jail. And then a judge said, after a few weeks, the judge said, you either have to try the senator for a crime or release him. So that judge went to jail for saying that. So that's kind of like one of those things, rights aren't necessarily rights, suspension of civil liberties and military control. That's kind of the par for the course, right? So whether it's justified or not, he did end up becoming elected to president. And also, when he was president, just did whatever he wanted to.
And well, you kind of set that standard and then they can do whatever they want. Now, again, in 1941, Hawaii's governor declared martial law.
Right.
And this is right after you're thinking 1941, Pearl Harbor, right? So after Japan hit Pearl Harbor, Hawaii's governor declared martial law for 3 years. And now, mind you, I said the governor took over.
Right.
Now, remember, I said who had to make that decision. That's not the same guy, but they call it, it's defined as martial law in America's history. But you're going to notice, remember, you thought I was a little crazy just being ridiculous when I said, oh, they go after judges and whatever. But let me talk about what they did. They ended up, the military took over courts, going after judges, trash collection.
Ooh, okay.
Yep. They interned people. Yeah, we set up camps, put people in camps. But, it was the Japanese, so,
immigrants.
They ignored, immigrants, whatever. Nobody, exactly. Ignored civilian rights. The Supreme Court later ruled it went too far. That might have been overdoing it, Kevin. Later, we decided, it's always after the fact, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's not really helpful if you, if you say it, after the whole thing went down. You know what I mean? Kind of defeats the purpose of having a judge or a court.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, just these kind of things can definitely, escalate. So now, obviously, we like to talk about prepping and preparedness and that kind of thing. And so obviously the government coming in and taking control and your rights and freedoms, that's a big focus of why we prepare, at least me and Kevin. I don't know why everybody prepares. I know it's very typical. People who celebrate self-reliance typically celebrate freedom. That's been my experience. So what could we do as preppers to kind of ensure our lives stay a little better in case things get out of control? Well, obviously, we can pay attention to politics, even though that consumes your life and sucks up your soul. But
I find that the more politics, the more news I watch as far as politics,
the angrier you get.
Yeah, I like just enraged every day. Every day I'm angry when I get home because I have Sirius XM, and I just flip between all the news stations. Goes to commercial, I go to the next news station, and I just get angrier and angrier. And then by the time I get home, I'm like screaming at my wife and kicking the dogs and stuff. And so I try not to do that,
Yeah. But no, exactly. So that's not really necessarily productive. However, voting in ways that represent freedom would always be a good choice in my mind, right? Things that are going to give me more rights and typically my experience over the years in my old age, I would say that it's been my experience. The more things the government is willing to give me, the less freedom I end up with as a result of that, and the less control. Now, that may not happen in the first thing. When you post, you create a law and say, hey, we're going to give everybody Social Security. It sounds good. You're like, hey, I'm just getting free stuff. There's no big problem here. Little bit, we're going to tax those rich people or whatever. It's not even going to hurt me. But then now we look at it. What are we? Gosh, it's got to be like 90 years later. Somewhere around there, you go way into the future and you're like, gee, Chuck, if I had my money and compound interest and the way that works, if I had invested that money, I would have a lot more. So therefore, your freedom went away for that free stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now you're like, but Chuck, when I get that $1,500 check from Social Security, I have freedom. I can go to the grocery store and buy whatever I want. But when they took your paycheck and chose what to do with it, and it turns out they spent it on shenanigans.
They spent it on shit that isn't Social Security, turns out.
Then, then it's maybe not as cool.
Yeah.
So, all right.
Now we're paying our Social Security to pay the people that are on Social Security
They didn't save our money
Right.
like they told us they would. Because remember that we were going to have a Social Security lockbox.
Right.
Remember, it was going to just go in there and save.
Yeah. It was just you didn't have the key. Somebody had the key.
It
wasn't you and me.
Yeah. Well, they took the key and they were like, whoo-hoo. That was actually the noise they made when they opened it, when somebody found it. So, they just leave it on the seat in the White House when they change presidents. They just leave the key to the lockbox just right there. Or maybe it's in like the top right desk drawer.
Mm-hmm.
Key to the lockbox right there. Anyway, no, but that is my thought. It's like, pay attention to politics a little bit and like, hey, what's going on? But again, I made a personal choice. I don't focus and pay that much attention to the day-to-day things that I cannot control. Now, you want an overall theme of, hey, is this guy violate my rights more, or does he help my rights more? And my experience, the way I choose to approach voting and that kind of thing is, I say, am I getting more good things that align with my values out of this person, or voting for the other person? Which one's going to get me more of my values?
Right.
And honestly, right now, and in a long time, I feel like it's going to suck either way. I want less government. So unless you're repealing government, you're probably not the right guy for me. But then it's like, well, what am I going to do? Not vote? Because then you're going to get bad.
Right.
And it makes it hard. So anyway, that's part one, right? That's one way to protect yourself.
But I mean, just to be fair.
Yes.
With all the gerrymandering going on, like currently right now, your vote doesn't really mean shit anymore. So
Kevin, that's hurtful. It's anti-American talk.
Use that with that information, what you will, but your vote doesn't really count.
It definitely doesn't help your vote. Mm-hmm. I will say that. All right. So part two. So what happens, right? Now, Katrina, a small sample of what martial law could be like, they went and confiscated everybody's guns. Right. So when they did this, one, if they can't find it or don't know you have it, they can't confiscate it. That's part one.
Right.
Two, these people, this is the time when they actually needed the guns to protect themselves.
Right. Because there was looting and rioting going on. Maybe not necessarily rioting, but it was definitely looting happening.
And people did get hurt, and there were,
there were robberies,
violent crimes happening. Yeah. We'll say that. Sure. That's a pleasant way of putting it, because other bad things happen that I find despicable. But anyway, so you have that, right? Because when people think there's no control or overreach, they can do what they want. Now you're saying, well, Chuck, that's why we need martial law. Well, yeah, that's a gray area there that we could talk about. Bottom line is, do you feel you can protect your family better, or do you think the government can? And I got to say, for a lot of families, the government probably does a better job than they might be doing.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't necessarily fit with your life or my life, perhaps. I'm just saying. It's kind of a catch-22, if you will, Kevin.
There you go. So I would say that as a prepper, if you're in an area that martial law is declared, your best bet is to stay in your house and eat your preps, mind your own business, and don't go outside. Now you're like, well, we should be out protesting. We should be out fighting government tyranny. Well, like if you're 25 and you don't have kids, that's probably do what you want to do. But if you have a family that you're concerned about, stay inside and mind your own business.
All right.
That's the best way to survive it.
So let me just wrap up with guns here, and then I'm going to segue into that. So with guns, one of the big things, these people didn't get their guns back, and they weren't compensated for their guns.
Right.
One of the big things, they were like, well, do you have your receipt? Show me your receipt. And I'm not talking, there is actually a form, if the government takes your stuff, that you can get them to sign that they took their stuff. So in a way, that's a receipt, right? But they're going to be like, screw you, and point the gun. We don't have time for this, and just take their stuff, because that's what always happens. I've seen movies. I know what's going on.
Yeah. And so honestly, like, are you going to really get, like, is Private Smith really going to be like, oh, yeah, I'll sign that? No, he's not going to sign his name on anything.
No, that's not my job. Right. Yeah. So that's part one. Part two, they mean a receipt from the store where you bought it. Right. Or from Jim down the road who you bought that gun for, and have the serial number. So awesome if you keep a list of these records and have it somewhere in a safe place. Now you're thinking, well, but Chuck, there was a giant hurricane and my house isn't there. And that closet up top where I keep the receipts tucked,
all flooded.
It's not there, or it's flooded. Right. Yeah. Sucks to be you. So that leads me to part two of maybe you put your guns in a safe place where they don't get taken in the first place.
Right. Like a boat.
Like a boat. Keep them in the boat. Like a barge, with an anchor, and you're safe. And then the hurricane washed it away.
It washed it away.
Who knew, right?
They're in my boat.
That's definitely one way to do it. Now, back into part two. So obviously guns aren't the most important thing. Although I got to say, if as a society, we feel the military walking up and down the streets is the only way I can be protected, having protection sounds like a pretty good idea to me at that point. Like, you might need it, right? Or you really have an oppressive government, and maybe you need to worry about it at that point. Either way, both things I find a little bit concerning. Part two, exactly what Kevin said just a minute ago. I would say you need to be able to stay in your house. So how capable are you of just staying home? Can you stay home and not leave your property? Will you have food? Will you have something to eat? Or would you be like, please, sir, take me to a shelter? Like, I don't know what version of you ends up coming out in this time, but hopefully it's not the, please put me in a FEMA camp, because
you know what they don't let
provide for myself.
You know what they don't let into FEMA camps? Guns,
Kevin.
Guns. Oh, you can't bring your gun with you.
But I could bring like a really big knife, like Rambo.
Yeah, I don't know what the rules are as far as knives go. I mean, they're tricky. You can get in trouble for carrying a knife of a certain size in certain states, and the whole thing just without martial law.
So, all right. So obviously, being able, the longer you can survive without the assistance of other people, one helps you in so many ways, right? One, you could watch our episode on preparing for a hurricane, and you would be like, oh, look, I'm covered. I don't need to go. Cool. Two, preparing for martial law, right? And the thing is, the reason we kind of went through all this is you need to be able to recognize the signs of what's going on in your government. Recognize people, recognize what's going on, like how do they behave and what should I expect, right? That's the kind of thing where we need to learn to, take care of ourselves and provide for our family. And that's one of the hugest things. And I would say the more you hide your stuff, did I say hide? The more you prepare and keep your stuff in a safe place. That's the words I would use. Then I would say that you will be able to thrive and go on without any issues. That's really, I guess, what it comes down to. Kevin, thoughts?
Yeah, no, a safe place is good. I have a gun safe that I keep my Pokemon cards in.
Oh, yeah.
No, I mean, a safe place is obviously if you have little kids, you want to teach them how to use a gun and what a gun does and that sort of stuff. But you also don't want them playing with the gun when you're not around. So, if you're concerned about it, maybe keep a lock on your firearms. or keep them out of reach of small children. Every once in a while, you see a toddler shoots their parents accidentally, and that's always, to me, the parents' fault that got shot. You know what I mean? Like, but, keep them in a safe place where maybe somebody that comes in your house won't necessarily find them easily.
Right, like a criminal.
Or, a government-sponsored criminal.
Whatever. It could go either way.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I already said criminal, Kevin. I already had that covered. But no, that's the thing. So putting your stuff in a secure spot. And here's the thing. One of the things is, turns out they don't just come and take guns sometimes. If things get really bad, they come after the hoarders, the people who have all the toilet paper and the long-term food storage. I guarantee you, if you've bought stuff from one of these freeze-dried food companies, you're probably on a list that the government has. I would bet money that they have a list of this guy has some long-term food storage. I'm just saying. Now, if you had a bucket or two you could turn over, they would be like, oh, there it is. Be like, yeah, we ate it. I lost my job and we didn't have money to go grocery shopping, or my friend lost his job and he needed some assistance. So I gave him that. Or you could dime it and be like, yeah, Mayor so-and-so who ran against me last year, he was in a tight spot and I sent all my food over to him.
Right.
I'm just saying, you might want to check his house. I heard him say something about he's keeping it in his basement, and you might want to go look.
Might want to go check it out. Yeah.
That usually doesn't end well for you when you go and snitch on people. Kevin, what is the rule about people who snitch? I don't know. Anyway, it ends bad. We
all know what happens to snitches.
So I'm just saying that might be something you guys might want to look into and prepare for. So anyway, the longer you can take care of yourself, the longer you're prepared and self-reliant, the less you need on the outside, the more you can stay at home, protect your family, stay safe, and take care of each other. And also, like I said, having a list of your guns, but you don't need to have a list if they can't find the guns. I'm just saying, right. Like, hypothetically, right? Just, So anyway, I think I've made enough puns and everything for one day. So Kevin, any other last thoughts, or are we there?
Just remember what your mama told you. Mind your own business.
There you go. Now you're getting to the bottom of it. So anyway, questions, concerns, thoughts. We appreciate lots of feedback on the sites, good, bad, whatever. We'll take it. And, comments, likes, we always love them. I'd say with that, stay safe, and we will talk to you guys next week.
Hey guys, this is Melissa Bachman. Are you ready to stop spooking deer before it's even time to hunt them? Then you need the new Flex S Dark cellular trail camera from SpyPoint. With a no-glow flash option, long-lasting solar power, and a ton of settings that can be changed anytime through the SpyPoint app, there are no more excuses for letting your deer get wise before the season even starts. So check it out for yourself and see why the SpyPoint Flex S Dark is the unstoppable and undetectable scouting tool you need for your next hunt.
This episode is brought to you by Netflix. Becoming the most valuable sports franchise in the world doesn't happen without risk. A man who's willing to bet it all, and the players ready to make their own luck. America's Team, The Gambler and His Cowboys, is the story of the 1990s Dallas Cowboys and Jerry Jones's impact on NFL history. Featuring interviews with iconic 90s players and more. Watch America's Team, The Gambler and His Cowboys, streaming now only on Netflix.
This episode is brought to you by FX's Alien Earth, the official podcast. Each week, host Adam Rogers is joined by guests, including the show's creator, cast, and crew, in this exclusive companion podcast. They will explore story elements, deep dive into character motivations, and offer an episode-by-episode behind-the-scenes breakdown of each terrifying chapter in this new series. Search FX's Alien Earth wherever you listen to podcasts.